All right, welcome to the AYSES 91 alumni, the pioneers. My name is Kevin. I have Jeremy here, Daniel, and Zach. So to cover this part of the podcast, it's going to be ages U11 to U14. So U11 was our first year in select and up to U14. So to start off, what difference did you notice in your experience of pre-select soccer and your first year of select soccer? So for me, one thing I noticed is the seriousness or the professionalism as far as like a quick example, like before games we had to line up our bags.
Yeah.
And then like I think warm-ups were a little bit more structured as well. And then the as far as like the point system, I think we took that a lot more seriously also. And then like how we dressed, our uniforms were a lot better compared to before. But those are really the things that I noticed immediately. As far as the level, I mean, obviously another thing too, games from week to week are going to be better because you're no longer playing the lower level teams. So, but as far as the biggest difference, I'd just say the atmosphere of things just seemed a lot more professional-like.
Yeah, I think that was 11 when that's when you start 11v11, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 11v11.
So it's really all new because it's 11v11, home and away, uniforms, line
that
bags.
too. Yeah.
Bigger field. The corner kick felt like it took forever to kick that one.
Yeah.
In terms of level of play, there's a lot more space. A lot more space than what you think. But I think we still played. I think when you were there, we still played only 25 halves or maybe 30 halves. You didn't play 45s yet.
No,
not that.
I'm thinking at most 30. I want to say
25 or
30.
30. So it still felt long. It's a lot of running compared to what was before.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to be more tactical and more technical. You know, you couldn't run for the whole time. You got tired. Passing, you can't dribble the whole field again. You can't. That was, if you were the star on the team before, you can dribble the whole way. That couldn't happen. You just get way too tired and burnt out. But it was exciting for sure. It felt like this is because you always had maybe an 18 team that come and play afterwards. Like, we put on the same field as the 18s, or the game before was a good one to watch.
And the fields were obviously way better at that time.
Richland, right?
Yeah,
Richland and UCD was the only two.
Yeah.
Daniel?
Well, for me, it was really more just the seriousness of it, and just having, like you said, the atmosphere of knowing that it's no longer just, as you could say, just recreational.
Yeah.
It's you signed that contract. You're on that team for the rest of the year. There's a little bit more pressure to win. That you're in a league where if you don't get certain points, you could potentially move down. So that's basically what I would see, that the level of competitiveness was definitely a lot higher and the pressure was there, and that's pretty much what I see.
Zach?
Yeah, for me, the big difference was coaching, because I joined AYSES right before we were about to go, while we were preparing to go to Select. So I never played with AYSES pre-Select. Pre-Select, I was just on my city team getting coached by the local dad. So coaching was a huge thing for me when I made the move to Select, and it definitely showed me the professionalism side of soccer. So that was good.
Okay. And for the next question, during this time, where do you think the level of your team was? And so, as our team, I remember U11, the first year they had all 20 teams, and then the second year they split it into two leagues. And our team,
that way.
Our team,
the first year you played 10.
20
teams.
total, and then the bottom 10 go to the second. We went to the second.
The first
division.
Yeah, after the first.
I didn't think though that. I think maybe there was 2-3 teams in the first division who were clearly better than us.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Hawks
was the best.
Yeah,
because
Hawks.
they were so big.
Texans.
And then maybe I was Andromeda that time.
Solar was good.
Solar was good.
Was
yeah,
good.
Okay, maybe more than 2 or 3. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe like 4 or 5. But
Yeah.
we ended up in the second division in any case. And as far as the level of our team, state, I mean, our North Texas was pretty strong too, relative to the whole
North
nation.
Texas was very strong.
So even though we were second division, I mean, national, I wouldn't say, like, in North Texas, it wasn't uncommon for the first team in North Texas to be the national team.
Or to
Putting
beat-
everything into
or
perspective.
to beat the regional team.
Yeah.
I would say the regional team is comprised of
Yeah.
mostly Texas kids
Yeah.
and most probably North Texas kids.
Yeah. And just to keep on the question, as far as where our team was, where we were, I think that we were a second division our second year because, like we stated in the first podcast, we had a few players who were really good, but then there was a big drop off.
Yeah.
So I think
You're only
that's
as
something.
good as your weakest link.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
exactly. Jeremy?
So I obviously left this season. This is the season I left.
Mhm.
So I started select with Texans.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up being fourth. I think fourth for 2 years due to size.
Oh, really? You guys had that problem?
Yeah, we were small. We were a very small team.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Goalie situation is always like that.
Yeah.
But I think, I guess, kind of going back to the first question, but also this is probably a problem for every team, was getting to finally understand positioning. Like, you had your position, like, you are midfielder, you are forward, you're defender. I mean, even now, growing up, you know, we coach eights, it's, everybody plays every position.
Yeah.
You know, I still really, you kind of have a sense of like, okay, this guy could be our center back, this guy could be our forward when it comes to that point. But now when you play 11s, it's, you do have to stay in your position. And that's the coaching piece. It's 11s. You have to, you understand, like, it's your role to be in that spot. I think that's a big jump from pre-select. And it could be just 11s, playing 11v11 versus 6s and 7s. Is understanding the field, understanding shape, covering your area that you have to cover.
And Jeremy, just about that, like he's speaking of these tactics more so, because I know Texans, they put a big emphasis on tactics. I don't know at what age, but do you think that also played a level between like the 2 or 3 teams above you and your team from U11 to U14?
Probably not yet.
Or it was more size?
Right, because you could have been out of position, but be fast, and you'll be okay. You
Good
could
point,
you could basically maybe play with one center mid, but he was big and strong.
Yeah.
You know, and you
Yeah.
could be fine. Or you can maybe not even have a center back, but have a good goalie, and you could still be okay.
Good point. Good
So
point.
it's not. It was, I think, from 11, 13, that age, maybe starting at 10, you start figuring out where is your strength of the team. Where do you fit in the 11? You know, where do you fit in the 90-minute game? Like, what is your role? Which is exciting, you know. But unfortunately, you know, you have the. I'm trying to figure who Ben Hill. You know,
Yeah.
tactically not good, technically not very good, just big and strong, and he had a cannon.
And he was on Hawks.
He was a Hawks.
The number 1 team. Oh,
Yeah, he was
Hawks had
Hawks.
every big player except one.
Every big player.
Except for that one. But everyone else was huge.
Right.
And that really, they were undefeated that year, right?
They
Yeah,
were amazing.
they got
I mean,
Oh my
it was you couldn't go against
So
them.
there was Hawks, a big gap. Number
Right.
2 was there. So between
So
Hawks and,
Hawks, Andromeda,
But then-
Solar,
yeah.
and then Texans.
but it was Hawks. There was a gap,
Yeah.
and then 2, 3,
Yeah.
and then maybe you guys 4 because
in
size
terms of
was
being
still
scared to
lacking.
play against someone, it was definitely Hawks.
Yeah,
Everyone
like-
needed
and
it.
there was a gap too. Like it
Right.
wasn't 1, 2.
It's just because physically they were just like dominant.
Yeah,
Right.
'Cause they
you
had-
knew, you basically knew you were going to lose against them.
yeah.
They had big athletic players in every position.
Right.
It's funny though because their best player was small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the.
But he
funny
was the
thing.
one that got those guys the ball.
Yeah, yeah. Daniel.
So as far as
Um,
our team compared to everyone else at Youth 11, I mean, I kind of just whenever we were playing at that age, I didn't really pay attention much to the size or anything because I mean it was just going out there and try
Yeah.
hard. But
Mhm.
I did realize that there are kids that are faster than you, that have developed more, because I played in the midfield area, so I was running back and forth, and I was like, oh, man, I'm tired. You had to
and we at that time carried a big load because of the difference we're saying between high and low. So maybe if we had like better players, you wouldn't have to work as much.
Yeah, because I remember being a box-to-box player, going all the way up, coming all the way back, going all the way up, coming out. It's like, what's going on, Like, and it wasn't that, we weren't trying to play as a team. It was just that we still had a couple screws that were loose that we just needed to fix. And, but you could definitely tell that if there's other teams that were better than you and teams that weren't better than you. But you kind of we were in the middle of the stack there.
Yeah.
And,
it's funny, I think we were like 11th place.
yeah, we
So
just missed
We were
it.
close.
Yeah, 11th or 12th.
Yeah, you're close.
We just missed it, But I think the second season we got first place and then we came back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we
So-
moved up right away.
Yeah, we moved up, so you could tell we were there. It was just a matter of our development. As far as size too, because we weren't a big team either. We weren't a big team the entire time.
I don't think we ever had big players.
We never had big players. Just one, Lucas, Ryan.
But that was much
that
later.
was way later.
Yeah.
We were
When
all-
it didn't really make that much of a difference.
Yeah, we were small. We kind of had to figure that out. We had to figure out that hey, we had to touch the ball around, move it fast, or else as soon as someone touches us,
And it's not just that we were small too, because like if you have small players, but like everyone's really athletic,
Yeah.
you might be okay.
It could help you, yeah.
Well, you didn't have it. We did. Lucas was basically our 6. Like he sat there our 8. Depending on how you wanted to play.
Defensive.
But-
Casemiro.
But yeah, Daniel, I think from considering U11 to U14, I would say for the most part we were somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
I
We
would
were
say-
always
I would say that
in that
too.
area where we could, if we played our best, we can give a challenge to the top guys, but if we didn't, there was no chance.
So how did you guys lose? I mean, in terms of what did you think that
Why we
you
lost?
lost? Yeah, why you lost?
I mean, we were like
And then Zach, this will then transition to you.
okay, yeah. I mean, we were like a 2 or 3 player team.
Yeah,
we went to
true.
3.
I
We went to
agree.
like
I agree.
this guy Daniel. We wanted Daniel to get the ball, and we wanted Kevin to get the ball if we wanted to win.
So there wasn't
And
we didn't have Josh. Was Josh? Josh
no,
was
Okay.
Josh wasn't on the team
Josh
yet.
was-
No, Josh came within this period though. U11 to U14.
You think he was we were like 14 though.
I
at
think
the end
tail
of
end
it.
of
Yeah, he came in.
Tail
Yeah,
end, right?
but at the beginning, he wasn't
Beginning
there.
is kind of just like me and you in the middle and passing it to trying to get it.
But
Yeah, we didn't even really have a forward at that time either.
Though-
we didn't have any speedy
yeah.
forward.
The one good defender we had though at that time was Daniel Coleman.
yeah,
Oh yeah,
did
we
have
had a good
Ah,
and
cool.
we had a good defense. We didn't concede a lot of goals, but we didn't score a lot of goals.
Right.
'Cause
Against the tough teams, at least.
Right.
Our attack started from like the center mids.
Yeah.
After
we
that,
kinda-
Yeah,
we
we were experts at missing a lot too.
We really didn't have- yeah.
I know, like, what was when we first started though. They didn't like Sammy and Miguel, Coach Miguel. They never really preached winning at the beginning. They just wanted us to develop first.
play
Right.
around, play the ball around,
Yeah.
move it, play the game.
So it didn't really put a ton of pressure
That's
on us
true. That's
to try
another
to
thing.
go kill and win.
Yeah,
A lot of us were out there to have fun at the
dude, I was
beginning.
just having fun.
yeah.
Which goes against kind of what we just said about your first question. What is
Yeah.
different from 11 was competitive professionalism,
Well,
but then you preach it's not about winning. So it's
Mm.
kind of hard to be in that setting.
Oh yeah, for
You
sure.
know, to have
for
all
sure.
teams around you, you're wearing the nice kits. You
Yeah.
know, you play in a day out. There is a little bit of winning, but then when you go to the game, the coach says it's not about winning. So it was kind of a paradox there.
Yeah.
You didn't know, like, is this about winning or is it not about winning? It seems like it should be, but it's kind of not.
Yeah.
So that was kind of.
That
I
is
always felt that
definitely true.
too.
Yeah.
I felt that a little bit.
Yeah, I know other teams. You could see it in their coaches. Some coaches at that age would go crazy on their kids because
Right.
all they want to do is win. I mean, Sammy was hard on us too, but he didn't put that immense pressure on us at that age to win. You know,
Right.
he wasn't like. If we lost, he wasn't unless it was a bad loss and he didn't
Like,
he wasn't gonna make us go on
effort.
Like if
sprints
we
or
didn't
anything.
try,
Like
then
effort.
of course he would get
He
on.
preached
effort.
effort.
Yeah.
That's what he wanted. He wanted us. He
Yeah.
wanted to see that we were trying to win. But at that age, he didn't. He didn't put immense pressure on us to win.
Right.
And I think that helped our development in a sense because we weren't burnt out just focusing on winning. We were focusing on becoming better players.
Right, you don't peak at that age.
Yeah.
And I think another thing too is that imagine like we didn't have athletic players, but like we still took risk like passing it around. And there were players that weren't up to that level, so we would like lose balls.
Yeah, so
trying to do the right thing.
That's another reason why we didn't really. We weren't at the top of it because Sammy they never want us to kick the ball. He never wanted us to just kick it.
Lobbing the ball up or nothing. We were playing, trying to.
Yeah. And when you're playing against when you're playing against teams that are bigger and stronger than you, sometimes if you're just trying to pass it out, they're just going to overpower you and take it. They're already close to the goal, so they don't have to build up play.
It's kind of they scored off of our mistakes, in a sense how it even happens to us at the younger age. How we try to play from the back, but they're still learning how to even control the ball.
Yeah, at a younger age, that's how a lot of goals are scored off of other teams' mistakes.
Well, that's how a lot of the goals are scored on our teams right now. But it's more of just teaching them the right ways. Play it right. Don't just kick it up and.
Okay. So I'll go to the next question. What was your experience of youth soccer? I guess we covered this too during this period as far as the playing, the teammates, the club atmosphere, and coaching. I'd say we pretty much covered all that.
Yeah.
So I'll head to the next question. What differences did you notice about your team with every passing year from U11 to U14? So as far as what I noticed from U11 to U14, man, to be honest, I think it was steady.
Yeah,
I don't think it wasn't like high, it wasn't like low, and then we just shot up like that. Like from U11 to U4, it was steady.
Yeah,
you didn't really notice it that much.
I don't really. Yeah, I don't think back on. When I look back, it's not like we had like this drastic increase. Of all of a sudden we're beating teams. No,
not to U11 to U14.
It was up and down, up and down.
Yeah.
But you guys never went down though. The thing is that you guys were what 11.
10, 11.
And then you went to maybe 8, and then 7, and then 6.
Yeah,
it wasn't like we went up and then you guys went down again. It was
very steady and slow.
Very, very steady.
Yeah.
And Jeremy, what differences did you notice about your team with every passing year from U11 to U14?
I guess I answered it in a different way in terms of commitment. You started kind of seeing the players that are going to stay with soccer.
With soccer, really?
Stay with soccer.
From U11 to U14?
You can kind of see it.
Because at 14, you're about to go to high school soon.
Right.
So
it was.
You start playing different
this
sports.
this is an investment on your life in terms of your time and energy and money. Your parents are paying for it, so you couldn't play multiple competitive sports. And I think at Texans there was maybe like 2 kids that played another sport, and then at that point it was like, okay, you can't miss practice. You can't miss games. You can't have conflict. Tournament. I was like, wait, no, I have a basketball tournament that weekend. It's like, well, so you eventually start picking.
I see what you're
one.
saying. Yeah.
So that was good. So think obviously I'm sure we lost players as well. On both teams due to either not playing or not wanting to play soccer anymore. They didn't think this was how it was going to be. This is too competitive for them, maybe. So I think that was kind of cool to see because then it was seriousness. You felt the competitiveness on the outside. That was the atmosphere they were kind of built in. But now internally, your team is like, all right, we're weeding out the players that are not committed and they don't want to do this. So that was kind of cool to see. It was you're really forming the true team now, not 11 but at 13, 14. And really tightening the screws. You had everything there, and now it's like, okay, let's really fine tune it, and now let's do this.
Okay, so at least from what I hear from you, as far as this, it's you found out which players were more committed, and then honing in on those players in order to And Daniel, no, you can.
I would say like 11. You played tournaments, but not as much. You played more tournaments at 12. It started getting more serious every single year.
Of course.
Soccer just became more serious for you if you kept on doing it. And there's obviously players that jumped out and was like, no, it's not for me. This is way too much of my life. So
we can take over your weekends.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Daniel?
Well, no, like I said earlier, it's just you didn't really see much of a difference as far as going up and down. Like, you didn't see a drastic increase of players just all of a sudden our team winning. No, it was still development from 11 to 14. Catch on what he said too. Yeah, you can kind of tell who was committed and who wasn't. You know, we did lose a couple players during that time.
Mm-hmm.
We did gain new players at that time, and
Yeah.
the new players that we got were committed. You know, because that was at that age where hey,
Yeah.
you know you have a couple more years, and then you could potentially get a scholarship. You start thinking kind of at that age of 14-ish. Oh, okay, what's next? College. Oh, can I go professional? Do I need to try harder? You know, because back then, you kind of, well, for me, in my experience, I thought, okay, if I'm not professional by 18, then I'll never be professional. That was kind of,
That's kind of how it is.
that's how it
In
was.
other parts of the world.
Yeah.
Right.
And it can change nowadays. Like, you could be 21 and even just have a chance, you know?
Yeah.
But it is still kind of like, oh, if you're not 18 and you don't have a contract, then
Except for U.S., because usually
Yeah.
it's like you go to college.
yeah,
So you're in your 20s.
yeah. Here in the
Um,
U.S., it's a little bit behind on that as far as when you go pro, unless you
Unless you
sign
go
with
overseas.
the academy too, though.
Or you go overseas.
MLS
Overseas.
academies.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But yeah, at that age, 11, 14, you kind of just realize who, like you said, who's serious and
Mm.
you know who you can count on, and that you know they'll be there. So yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of our team from 11 to 14, as those years progressed, we became a little bit less of a 2 or 3 man team.
Yep.
So I think
Yeah.
that helped us in our
Yeah.
gradual increase.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
You know, because the way that your dad preached us to play, since we kept repeating over and over those same things, we eventually started to get better at them.
Mm-hmm.
And we did keep a good core of our group together.
Yeah.
We didn't lose a lot of players,
Mhm.
and the players we gained helped us actually.
Yeah.
We got players like Jared, so we finally had to fast forward.
Josh
we got
Kobe.
Josh Kopi, who was a
was-
workhorse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Was
Yeah.
Bosma the original?
Yeah.
Bosma came-
Bosma's there
yeah.
forever.
He was close
Yeah.
to original.
Since U11.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
He developed immensely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me and
By the end, he was solid. You know.
yeah, yeah. So, I just thought that was a big thing, you know.
Mhm.
Was that we became less of a 2 or 3 man team,
100%.
and it just kept getting better. Like it just kept getting better from there. So.
Yeah.
We started getting players from different clubs because they liked the way we played too. So
Yeah.
that
And
helped.
obviously, when you start winning, because it was steady, but obviously you could see like, okay, this team's getting better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then actually, Zach, what you said leads me to my answer for this next question is, what differences did you notice about your own development with every passing year during this period from 10 to 14 years old? And for me, it's that I was beginning to play more with other players, because I know at U10, U11, me and Daniel had a lot of the ball, but with time, we had to now get everyone involved.
Yeah, because you guys had all the attention.
Yeah,
Because
so-
they knew if they took
exactly.
you out of the game.
Yeah.
And that was just good for us too, to play with other people.
Yeah.
So at this time, my role was actually getting less and less, which is good for the team, and actually good for me too, because you got to play with other people at the end of the day. But so that's actually the biggest difference. I'd say I went from a big role to U11 to a much smaller and smaller role as time went on, because now it was more important to rely on more players on the team as opposed to just me and Daniel, because even so, you couldn't rely on 2 players the older you get. I mean, eventually,
Yeah.
you're going to need
It
a
doesn't
larger
happen
team.
anymore.
And Jeremy, you can continue with that. As for, yeah.
I practiced a lot more. I had a trainer on the side, so it was like 2 days of practice, and then I trained one day with a trainer of mine.
What type of trainer was this? Was this like skills or physical?
Skills.
Okay.
Skills. It was the same. It's the same trainer as Lee, same trainer as Gregory Garza.
And if you could just let these guys know who Lee and Garza are.
So Lee Wynn was basically a Dallas legend. He was an '87 Texan. Came out of Texans, went to Indiana, then played Indiana 1 year, went to PSV Eindhoven, and then
In Holland, Netherlands.
in Holland. he didn't get to play. There's a manager change. A new manager didn't like him. So then he went to go play in Vietnam for a couple of years, boost his confidence up. Then he came back to Revolution.
And he's still there, right?
No, so he went to Revolution, then he went to LA, and then he went to Miami, and he didn't play anything in Miami this year. And then he went back to Revolution now, so he's back at Revolution.
And Garza?
Garza has actually played up his whole life. He's actually 92.
Yeah.
He joined Texans the second year. Didn't want to play with the 92 Texan, played with us.
College? Did he go to college?
Didn't go to college. He basically left. He moved down to Brazil at the age of 14 or 15. I think he was Sao Paulo scout. Then played in Portugal.
I know where he's
played
playing
in Mexico.
now.
Played in Mexico, Tijuana, and then now in the MLS.
Yeah.
I think he's got some injuries now, but he's settled down. But
Yeah. And this is the trainer that you were with.
Yeah.
At this time.
He was actually my brother's goalie coach, and then we all connected with all these little people.
Okay.
So that was part of my development, was getting more skills out there. Trainer. Another part, it was just understanding your body. I wasn't the tallest person. I had to stay healthy. Thankfully, I wasn't injury prone to broke my ankle, muscles, everything like that. Eating good foods. It's a long road, and that was kind of preached a lot of Texans was, eat well, feel well, stretch, rehab, all that other stuff that kept you going for the long run. So I think that was one of the big things was, not going to Friday night dances anymore. It was, if you had 8 o'clock games, you had to stay in, understand your sleep. It was all that stuff that was already starting at that age.
And what about as far as like your role within the team from U11 to U14?
Played right mid. So I played right mid and forward growing up. I never played right mid ever at Texans. I was always a forward. So that was new to me, understanding a new position, not being the goal scorer, not being the focus, the number 9, if you will. I was now a 7 or an 11 on the outsides. Crossing was not part of my repertoire. It wasn't part of my skill set until I went to Texans. So I had to play out wide. So I learned a lot in that sense. If people that was always true forwards, you don't know how to play another position. So I was glad I was able to go on the outside and play out wide. You saw the game very differently. You see the whole game when you're out wide. So that was interesting.
So are you saying it like made you more of a versatile player from U11 to U14?
I think you had to be. I think for my size and stature, I had to be more versatile. I mean, there was always a point that was like, yeah, I was fast, but there was a point that I may for sure not be the fastest ever. At that point still, I came from being the fastest probably. And then you go and you see Hawks and stuff and it's like, all right, crap. I can't outrun them anymore. So what do you do? What I need to change how I play, and I think that was the difference thing with again, AYSES kind of stayed how they played, which obviously works, maybe not at that age, but it builds upon and builds. But I think it taught me to adapt. I think that was another thing that was kind of taught at Texans was, all right, this is the cards you're dealt. You have 90 minutes, figure it out. Okay. You need to learn that you don't win always this way. You may not win. You have to play counterattack this one game.
Okay.
That was
the biggest thing,
right?
From you, okay.
Yeah, sometimes it's not a bad game when you don't have the ball the whole time.
I see what you're saying.
The game that you're given to you.
Okay.
Like as a winger, there are games you just don't get the ball. Even our team, we were a left-sided team with Josh. We were a left-sided.
There was a time where we went there a lot.
Yeah, you're a left-sided. So as a right mid, if I play the right back, like you don't have the game.
But Josh could just run for days.
Right. But then what is your role in that 90-minute game when you won't have the ball? Like what can you do to, contribute to the team? And you have to learn that. So that was kind of cool. I thought that was really interesting, learning that.
Yeah, and we can on that one specifically, we can get that one to the next chapter because I know you came. And, yeah. And Daniel, and I'll just go back. You remember the question?
Yeah, as far as my role when I was from 11 to 14.
Yeah.
I really don't think it changed much. I was still in the midfield. Yes, we did have to play more with the other players, but I wasn't much of a dribbler. I don't remember being much of a dribbler. I was more of the guy, if I got it, I'll go look for someone else. I'll pass it to someone.
Distributor.
I distributed the ball.
Yeah.
I think I still, to this day, I still that type of player. Like, if I get the ball, I'm going to look for someone. And I think it was more of just as development is learning where to be, get into those spaces because I wasn't the biggest guy. So I had to learn to separate myself from other players, and sometimes I couldn't, and that was the frustrating part. And
Yeah.
I think
Oh, wait, can you say that again?
it was frustrating that I couldn't separate myself from someone.
Like when trying to dribble them, or just creating space
just
for
creating
yourself?
space for myself so
Okay.
someone can give it to me, or
Okay.
say one of our players got the ball, and at one point I was open. But then it took a little too long to give it to me to where then the player would get on me already. And
Right.
if I didn't get that ball in time, since I was smaller, I knew I would get banged up or all that stuff. So, I mean, after a lot of games, I was always banged up. I'm sure everyone was. But, I mean, being in the middle, you get most of the action. Like,
I'll say this right now.
It's a hard role. I can never be
I'll say
center
this
mid.
Yeah, it's
for
hard.
Daniel, for your role, like in our early years, even as much as I may have contributed to the team, I would say you were actually the driving force of the team from defense to offense.
You're more disciplined. in
I
that
would
sense.
say your role was probably the most important as far as the function of the team.
The general.
Yeah,
I
the
mean,
general.
was like
I would
the
say so.
engine, the one that,
engine.
and that was the thing. Like, if I didn't give it my all, I kind of felt like I was the starter.
We were in trouble.
Yeah, like
We
if
were in trouble.
If I didn't play good,
Yeah, we were in trouble. We were in trouble.
and that was So I guess the pressure too. It went a little bit higher too as I got older, And then I mean the next chapter of it, my attitude did change a little bit.
We'll get there.
And that's something I wish I didn't do.
But,
But it was more of learning to adapt, to try to give myself time instead of just receiving it and then having someone on me right away.
okay.
Just learning the game more, watching more YouTube videos. That was the time of YouTube. I mean, I was watching Ronaldinho, just
Yeah.
players with skill. Really, I should have been watching like Pirlo or someone else,
Yeah.
I think that's the one thing that kids now don't look at the flashy players. Look at the player that plays your position. That's the one thing that I wish I did do more. And I think it comes also with someone helping you too to understand it too. That it's not about the flash. It's about learning your position and see what that player does. Go watch the game and see what that player does, instead of just watching the flashy one.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I mean, like, let's say when Ronaldinho was playing, he's one position, but the fact of the matter is most players don't play his position.
Exactly.
So it doesn't make sense, trying to model his game after him.
So I would try to model games with someone that didn't fit me,
Right.
So that's one part, I should have been watching the Beatles.
Was that your favorite player growing up?
Ronaldinho? Yeah.
Everyone's
him and
almost everyone's
Cristiano
favorite.
Ronaldo.
I was a
too.
Beckham guy.
The flashy.
Yeah,
I loved Beckham. How he kicked the ball. I loved how he played.
Yeah. I was a Thierry Henry fan.
Yeah.
That's a good
And
one.
then
That's mine.
Zach, on this one, what differences did you notice about your own development with every year from U11 to U14?
So my perspective is a little different. I mentioned in the last podcast that from the beginning, with the younger age, I was one of the players that was at the bottom of the totem pole. Not necessarily because of my skill or anything.
No, your skill was as good as anyone else's.
I was told a lot about my size. I was very small. Like, you talk about small players, I was really small.
You were probably the smallest on the team.
I was always athletic, but I was just really small.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was tough for me against the stronger physical players. But what helped me a lot was the type of game that we played, and what your dad would preach is like the ball moves faster than your feet. So if you get rid of the ball before the defender can even get to you, what can they do? You don't have the ball anymore. So it helped me learn the game. When to pass, when to dribble.
And actually, Zach, I gotta stay on this too. Like that is such a huge advantage being in your position from U11 to U14 because your off the ball movement, your technique has to be on point.
Yeah.
That's a
'cause
huge advantage.
I'm not going to sit there and try to post up a guy that's on my back because they're just going to outmuscle me. So I had to learn how to get into spaces. So, I mean, I didn't really play much U11 to U14, but I gained a lot of experience in terms of learning the game. Maybe not tactically, but in terms of offensively, how to get the ball. And I think that just gave me a different perspective in my development as a player.
I think it gave you a huge advantage. It's funny to say, but I remember at that time, like, there were games where we would only bring you on, like, okay, we're 6-0 up, Zach. Go in.
Yeah.
Like, games that were safe.
I would still score one, though.
Yeah, you would. You would. But I'm just saying that's where you started. But, man, I think the good thing is that you couldn't develop bad habits.
Right.
I would say that was a really good.
You had to come in and show what you like. You always had to go in there with that mentality.
Yeah.
I gotta get I have to prove.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, it helped me that I didn't have a bad attitude about it.
Yeah, that's true.
If I would have sulked all
That's
the time.
very true.
That's amazing.
That's a very
Yeah.
true. Yeah. That's very
And
true.
then you
would've
end up
been bad for
becoming
me.
one of our best players. See what happens.
And at a period, I think he was the best player.
Yeah.
I think so.
Towards the end, yeah.
The very end, yeah.
Yeah.
And then for the next question, from U11 to U14, why did you decide to stay on your team throughout this period? For me, because my dad was a coach, if I was gonna play soccer, the only time I would have gone out was if I went to a different country.
Heard this one.
That's the only time. Jeremy, why did you decide to stay on your team from U11 to U14, or was there no reason to go if there wasn't?
I don't think there was a reason for me to leave yet. I was playing. I mean, think of anything part in your life. If you are still enjoying what you're doing, you're getting playing time, you're getting support, you're happy with what you're doing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yes, winning was part of it. I was winning, but I was also getting exposure to other coaches. I would go practice with the 90s. I would practice with 89s. So I got to meet more people, different coaching styles, different stuff like that.
So that gave you, I'm assuming that gave you more incentive to stay?
Yeah, I had the option to. I mean, at that point, what AYSES we had just a 90 team.
And the 90s was kind of breaking
Or
apart.
just a 92, yeah. So it was just you had
Towards U14, they were
Right.
kind of... So we were the first team, the oldest team at that point.
Essence, yeah.
At the U14.
That stayed.
Yeah,
That stayed.
yeah.
Right. So I just think having a lot of options at that point in time was good. Playing, consistently with top players against top teams, going to the right tournaments, if you want to call them right or not. It just made you better. You were in that environment to become a better player, and I think I was continuing to enjoy that at that age still.
Okay. And Daniel?
Well, what made me stay on this team really, I was still enjoying it. That's the thing. Like, I didn't even have a second thought about even
By the way,
changing teams.
did anyone recruit you personally? I still think though that people were recruiting you, but like you said, my dad was like, nah, he's staying here.
Yeah,
Cause I was like, the way you were, I was like, man, I feel like you could have gone to you could have gone to teams that were better than us at that time.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Like you said, maybe your dad stopped it, or
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did.
or I just didn't. I never even had that thought, thinking, oh, I don't. Because if we lost, I didn't take it to heart.
That's the thing too. Like, honestly, for me, like, I wasn't even looking at wins and losses. I was looking, was it fun or not?
Yeah, I don't remember. Like, I cried once when we lost the tournament in San Antonio.
Was that when we played?
I think we lost the Hawks.
Yeah.
Okay.
We lost 1-0.
Yeah.
Alamo Cup, by the way.
Yeah, it was the Alamo Cup. Yeah.
Yeah, we lost 1-0 because of the keeper. That's that Jeremy mentioned earlier.
The
Keepers
ball
are
bounced over
important.
his head.
Yeah.
And he said like the sun was in my eyes.
Yeah, it bounced over his head.
Yeah.
That's the only time I really
And
was so passionate about that we lost because I felt like we should have won.
remember
We were playing
too.
the best team.
Remember
Yeah.
too. I had a 1-on-1, and the referee called it.
Stop the play.
Yeah, because the guy pulled my shirt and he stopped, and we're like,
Play
oh.
it.
But
But other than
In
that,
general.
I mean, I didn't have a reason to leave. I mean, I was still enjoying it. Yeah, you did have to sacrifice as far as just not going out with your friends and all that stuff. But I wasn't burnt out yet.
mm,
You know, yeah, there was a time of period that was later on, but at that time, there was just no reason to leave. I was enjoying myself. I believed in Sammy, and my parents were supportive. They took me everywhere, and I was having the time of my life, you know, because I mean, when you hear stories about your parents, what they came from, and what they're giving you, you look back and say, like, I gotta do this also for them too, you know, try to, you know, because at that time I was really thinking, hey, I'm gonna go pro, you know, no matter what, you know, like they said, what do you want to be in life? You know, in school, you know what they say, like, what do you want to be?
Yeah.
I never said anything doctor. I never said anything like that. I always said I wanted to be a pro soccer player. So I was, at that time, it was more like work hard and try to get your family out of what they're in,
Right.
you know? So that's how I took it. And if I was still enjoying it, then just keep going.
And Zach, I want to include, as far as why did you decide to stay on this team throughout the period? If you could include like you and your dad also, because I think your dad
I was
plays a
gonna
huge
mention.
part.
I was gonna mention my parents. So, I mean, I guess the reason I stayed at ACES was because I felt comfortable there. A lot of because I feel like a lot of kids in my position would have left. Maybe it might not have been their choice, but it would have been their parents' choice. Because at that age, your parents are investing in you because they have to pay for you to play in the club. So a lot of parents would get frustrated that their kid wasn't playing.
Yep.
I see that now in some clubs. They'll go and yell at the coach or something. My dad never did that, not once. He was actually the manager, I think, the first year.
Yeah.
So he was really involved in the team, even though I wasn't even playing much. My dad was actually best friends with Sammy. He was always talking, we were always going over to your house.
I know. Yeah.
Even though your dad
yeah.
still wouldn't play me.
I know.
It was kind of strange to be honest.
Is that a tactical move there? Best friends with the coach to get more playing time.
Yeah. So I mean, my dad never pushed that on me. He never pushed that negative side on me. Like, oh, my kid's not playing. Let me get mad and pull my kid out of the team, get mad at the coach. So in a sense, I felt comfortable because I felt it's like my dad wanted me to be there. I liked being there.
There's no pressure.
There wasn't pressure for me. No.
That has to feel so good.
Yeah.
God, you guys went
Yeah.
much better than I
Hey,
did.
Jeremy.
We had no pressure.
And I'll tell you this, Jeremy. My most enjoyable soccer years were like 8 years old to like 12 years old. So
Enjoyable, yeah. Enjoyable, right.
the most that I love the most, but obviously with certain coaches, it's a different experience.
Right.
So for the last question, from U11 to U14, I guess this actually kind of the same thing too. So I won't even go through that one.
What is it?
No,
Can we
but
take a break?
yeah, we can. But were there any thoughts of leaving your team throughout this period?
Oh yeah, that'd be kind of.
We did
It's
talk
kinda the
about
same
that
thing.
earlier.
It's
Yeah.
time to leave.
Didn't really.
Yeah.
There's no thought about it.
Yeah.
We enjoyed each other's company, messing around.
All right, that's it for part 2. Stay tuned for part 3.